And journalists are the two wide men with at least... Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this independent off-tube studio commentary. It's the early kick-off in the Premier League today. It's first against 20th as Chelsea take on Norwich City. Game has just got underway. There was a moment's applause before the match as well for Chelsea director Matthew Harding. It's the anniversary of his tragic death in the helicopter crash on his way to a Chelsea game all those years ago now. But Chelsea sitting pretty at the top of the league. Had a tough second half against Brentford last weekend, but some heroics from Edouard Mendy allowed Chelsea to hold on to all 3 points, whereas Norwich, sadly, they've started like a lot of people predicted they would do, where they just haven't been able to pick up the points early on, and they've started the season right down the bottom of the table. It's myself, Paul Szczerbakowicz, and Matt Guy taking you through the action. Matt, can we give Norwich a prayer today, or do we really expect Chelsea to dominate from start to finish?
Well, everything's pointing to a Chelsea win, isn't it, Paul? Even despite Brentford's fantastic second half against them last time out, Chelsea are easily the favourites today. Nobody in terms of the top team against the bottom, when they've faced each other, the bottom side has never beaten the league leaders since 2011. That's coming into the weekend, so everything is pointing to a Chelsea win. They've only scored 2 goals this season in the league, Norwich, both of them Timo Pukki, and one of those was a penalty. So they're not great defensively, they're not in free-flowing attacking form. So you would expect a Chelsea performance, but I suppose you never know. You never know.
As I say, I remember a couple of years ago, last time Norwich were in the league, they actually had a pretty good go at Stamford Bridge. But ultimately, it's just a little bit difficult to see where Norwich are going to get that threat from. I suppose from their point of view, they have to try and keep it tight for as long as possible. If they could score first, that gives them something to hold on to. But it really is good. Potentially could be a long afternoon here for the Canaries. Our referee, Andy Madley, just giving a free kick to Norwich just at the edge of their own penalty. I'll just remind you of the two teams. Edouard Mendy in goal for Chelsea, with the back three of Trevor Chalobah, Thiago Silva and Antonio Rudiger. The 4 across the middle are Reece James, Jorginho, Mateo Kovacic and Ben Chilwell, with Callum Hudson-Odoi, Mason Mount and Kai Havertz as the 3 up front for Norwich. Tim Krul in goal with the back 3 of Ozan Kabak, Ben Gibson and Grant Hanley. The 2 wide men are Max Aarons and Demetrios Giannis. Then it's 3 in midfield, Pierre-Lys Malou, Matthias Norman and Kenny McLean, with Joshua Sargent and Timo Pukki as the 2 up front. It is Norwich in possession. McLean going back towards Hanley. Long clearance from him over the top of Pukki, headed forward by Chalobah, but loose ball picked up now by Norman. Spots a bit of space here for Aarons down the right-hand side. He gets to the edge of the area. That's a good ball from Aarons. It just gets away from Giannis, and that's a shame. If he could have run onto that first time, he would have had a chance to get a shot away. Then he tries to play a square ball into midfield, which goes straight through to Mateo Kovacic, and now Chelsea can go on a counter here with Callum Hudson-Odoi. Gets towards the penalty area, being stood up by 2 Norwich players. Tries to get that ball in. Kovacic slides in and finds Havertz on the left-hand side. Havertz's ball into the box is just blocked initially by Kabak before it's finally cleared down the right-hand side. Pukki chasing this one as Thiago Silva gets there first. But that was a bit more promising from Norwich, although in the end they just couldn't quite get the ball into the box.
Yeah, open game so far, isn't it? That ball to the left-hand side. Janulis got on the right side of Reece James as he's concerned. The England right-back just caught napping for a moment, but then on the other end, Chelsea looking dangerous as well. It's an open start to the game and a quick one, and a lot of players on the pitch trying to prove themselves.
Certainly are, as Jorginho puts an early ball in. That's not too far away from Hudson-Odoi, and Havertz was there as well. It was Jorginho, quite a central position. You wouldn't have expected him to put a cross in from where he was, but nobody closing him down. Had a lot of time, so he put that ball in. It just gets away from Hudson-Odoi, but it was the right idea from Jorginho, who has the captain's armband on today.
Yeah, it was a good ball in, wasn't it? It was Max Aarons covering across on Callum Hudson-Odoi. Was just about strong enough, wasn't he, to hold him off. Of course, he's still young, Max Aarons, but he's been in and around the Premier League, coming up and down with Norwich for the last few years. A lot of the criticisms that he has had in the past, that he's been weaker sometimes in defence and good going forward, but that was good from him there.
Absolutely. Well, it's almost the way in which teams are set up now. The wide defenders have pretty much got to be like midfielders, haven't they, really? But that does mean that sometimes they do leave those defensive qualities behind. It's Kovacic in the centre circle here for Chelsea. Leaves the ball for Jorginho. Coming up to 5 minutes gone. Independent off-tube studio commentary. Goalless between Chelsea and Norwich. Another game on our service available right now is the early Championship kickoff as Cardiff City take on Middlesbrough. That one is also goalless in the early stages, but Rudiger stepping forward now. Rudiger strikes one from the edge of the area. A bit of a curling effort as well. You know that Rudiger does like to range forward, particularly when the opposition perhaps will allow him to do that if there won't be too much work from him in defence. And a bouncing ball that Krul deals with in the end.
Yeah, he deals with it, but he did drop it for a moment. There were a few questions of the next man coming in, being able to get there, but Norwich are giving as good as they got.
They are. Long ball over the top now. One for Janulis to chase. That's good work, though, from Reece James. Just stands at the edge of the area, makes sure that ball goes out for a goal kick. It's the right idea, though. It was Norman who played the ball over. McLean then spots an excellent run here from Janulis. He tries to keep the ball in, but just showed a bit too much of it to Reece James. Doesn't have to do too much really other than stand his ground and let that ball out. Let the ball go out for a goal kick, which has been taken quickly. Trevor Chalobah now going forward for Chelsea. Leaves the ball for James. Pressing here from McLean as Jorginho goes back towards Thiago Silva. Certainly you can't fault Norwich's energy levels at the start of this game. It's a question of how long they can maintain it and whether or not they can keep Chelsea at bay. As here comes Kovacic now over towards Chilwell on the left-hand side. Leaves the ball for Hudson-Odoi. As Matt mentioned, Hudson-Odoi is certainly a player that wants to prove himself. Doesn't get too many starts, and it has to be said that when he does start and when he comes off the bench, doesn't show perhaps as much as we know he can. And this is a sort of game against Norwich where I think Thomas Tuchel wants Hudson-Odoi to try and express himself.
Yeah, and he's still looking for that set position, isn't he? He's often played at that right full-back role. Of course, Chelsea like to rotate. Thomas Tuchel, a little bit of a tinker, a bit like Claudio Ranieri, isn't he, with this back five system. Hudson-Odoi, yeah, I mean, it's a great chance for him to get into this side. I know it's unfortunate for Chelsea that they've got the injuries, but they've got such a deep squad with a lot of talent. And it's a chance for Havertz up front to prove himself in that position, as well as Mount and Hudson-Odoi in behind. Absolutely,
and there's certainly some thought, I think, behind Tuchel, as you mentioned, tinkering, but also wanting to give some of those players that perhaps are out of form a little bit a chance to have a good performance in front of a home crowd. Chelsea's last game was that 4-0 win against Malmo. That was at home. They also play Southampton in the Carabao Cup in midweek. That's also going to be at Stamford Bridge. But here comes Hudson-Odoi down the left-hand side, cross into the box, headed away by Gibson. It drops to Mount. Mount with the strike, and it beats Tim Krul. It's taken 7 minutes for Chelsea to break the deadlock in this game. Mason Mount's barely had a touch of the ball since the start of the match, but he's certainly announced his presence now.
Absolutely fantastic strike from Mason Mount in front of his England manager Gareth Southgate, who's at Stamford Bridge today. It was just a lovely piece of play from Jorginho as he picked it up from the edge of the box, flicked it to the side. Mount wasn't pressed quick enough and struck it fiercely, didn't he?
He did, and even the Chelsea players not in the squad today, as we saw there, it was Timo Werner there approved of that strike as well, but it's Hudson-Odoi's ball in, headed away initially by Gibson. Nice little touch there, as you mentioned there, from Jorginho, but the strike from Mount is absolutely superb. Hits it first time, waits for that ball to just sit up perfectly in front of him, really puts his laces through it, and absolutely no chance. It actually starts, it looks like it's going wide, it just swerves inside of the post and into the back of the net.
Yeah, just looking at the replays just then of the Norwich defence, there was only one man pressing both Jorginho and Mount. That's why Mount was able to find the space. There was a line of at least 5 or 6 where a couple of players had dropped in, the likes of Norman and I think Lees Malou, had dropped into position alongside the centre halves. They're too deep there, Norwich.
They are, and it's to say it was a bright start. Norwich trying to keep the energy levels up, but they concede inside the first 10 minutes. And now it's going to be interesting to see whether the visitors have a plan B. There's not much point in sitting back and trying to defend a defeat. They've got to try and get forward now, but obviously be mindful of not losing the ball too easily. As attempts to pass that ball forward, they're charged down on the right-hand side. Mount would have been delighted with that strike. And he's just waiting now for play to be restarted. But from Norwich's point of view, we saw Tim Krul. He was absolutely fuming with his defenders there after that goal was scored. I mean, it was quick play from Chelsea, but I suppose Jorginho and Mount were able to get to the ball without anybody really stopping them. And it's what you said about the Norwich just sitting back too deep.
Yeah, Gibson was the man pressing forward, and it went through his legs as well. So that's always a frustrating one for the goalkeeper because he can't see where it's coming from. It goes through. It's surprising. I mean, he wasn't going to save it anyway. It just clipped the inside of the post, didn't it? But Mount with his first goal of the season. I mean, Chelsea have not been forthcoming with lots of goals this season. They've just dug out results and been so solid, haven't they, picking up those 3 points, which is why they find themselves at the top of the table. But Mount, one of those finally managing to get on the score sheet. Yeah,
first time we've seen Daniel Farke just on his touchline, on the next to his dugout today, and he certainly didn't look too happy. Mind you, he has that sort of rather intense look about him anyway, whether his side are winning or losing. But it'd be interesting to know exactly what his thoughts are, because this obviously isn't something that he's decided himself. It is a club policy that Norwich don't go crazy with their spending, try and keep the wage bill and the transfer fees down, which is fine in terms of longevity, but it does mean that they really have become the quintessential yo-yo club.
Yeah, and it does frustrate a lot of neutrals and a lot of other fans of other clubs in the Premier League when the teams like Norwich do come up and down. But it's one of those, not everyone is blessed with millionaire, trillionaire owners. And of course, Newcastle playing this afternoon, first game without Steve Bruce. There's Abramovich at Chelsea. They've, of course, the owners of Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool. They've all got such big money behind them, and even the lower clubs that have come up recently, Fulham, the likes, have spent over 100 million when they've come into league, as have Aston Villa. Norwich just can't do that.
They can't, but as I say, the end result of that is that they never really have a squad that's competitive enough, and certainly the start of this season, it's still early in the season, of course, but early signs are not particularly good here for Norwich, as the ball is played in from the left-hand side. It's a deflection off the head of Grant Hanley, and ends up back with Tim Krul. And under Thomas Tuchel in the Premier League, when Chelsea have scored first, they've scored 18 times, have been the first team to score. They've won 16 of those games. They've drawn 1 and they've lost 1. So the stats don't make good reading for Norwich either.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is what everyone kind of expected, an early Chelsea goal and an easy victory. But Norwich just have to settle things down, don't they? Get a little bit of the ball, see if they can take themselves up the field. But apart from those early balls over to Giannoulis on the left-hand side, they haven't had a chance.
No, they haven't. As Elise Malou now tried a long ball, diagonal ball, looking for Giannoulis, but that one is played away from him, and it's now Thiago Silva bringing the ball forward for Chelsea. Plays a long ball over the top, looking for that run of Chilwell, headed away by Hanley, but it's just dropping in midfield. There was no Norwich player close by, so the Chelsea move carries on. It's Havertz now on the left-hand side, puts a cross in, and that's charged down by Kabak. And it's out for a corner, but it was just a very straightforward header into midfield. There was nobody in a Norwich shirt there.
It was similar to the goal, wasn't it? It was a header out from the box and nobody on the edge of the box on that occasion. This time in midfield, none of the 3 midfielders anywhere to be seen in the camera shot for Norwich, and it's just too easy for Chelsea.
It is too easy as Antonio Rudiger steps forward for this corner, as does Thiago Silva. Plenty of options here for goal scorer Mason Mount from this corner. Plays it low along the ground. That was the idea. Cleared up towards the halfway line, though. There was a whole line of Chelsea players, but it just eluded all of them.
Yeah, he was looking for Ben Chilwell. He scored in back-to-back games. Could have gone a third in the Premier League with Southgate watching. Chilwell's goal-scoring form will certainly be something he's looking at, but yeah, almost an English combination there between Mount and Chilwell. But it was just slightly in front of Chilwell. It almost came to another Chelsea player, didn't it? But a nice idea from Mount, nonetheless. Yeah,
absolutely. But from the resulting goal kick, Norwich straight away give possession away. It's Jorginho's ball towards the edge of the area, and Havertz was closing that one down. But it does get through towards Tim Krul. Nice run through the middle now from Matthias Norman. Norwegian gets stopped just inside the Chelsea half, though, and now it's Rudiger across to Chalobah, who plays a ball down the right-hand channel as Gibson gets across. He wants a free kick. He's not going to get a free kick, but in the end, it works out fine for Norwich because the loose ball deflects off Reece James and goes out for a goal kick anyway. But as I say, it's difficult to see where Norwich are going to break this sort of trend that we're seeing from the start of this game, where Chelsea have just got comfortable possession and can get forward time and time again.
Yeah, there were a couple of moments just before, just as you were speaking, there was Norman, as you mentioned, made a run through the middle. It looked as though he may have picked up a slight little bit of a knock or a pull or something. He didn't look comfortable. But the other moment that I did just notice was Jorginho received the ball into feet. All he did was touch the ball to his right-hand side, and the defender was gambling that it was going to the left. As soon as he'd done that, he played a poor ball forward, but he had about 3 yards of space. And nobody pressing him to play a pass. You can't allow Jorginho that time.
Absolutely not. But a long clearance now does get through to Pukki, but straight away it's Jorginho who's on him. And he plays the ball down that right-hand side. Flicked forward now by... ball was played forward by Havertz to Mountain, who's trying to get a bit further forward, but that one does get through towards Tim Krul. And Norwich City now in possession at the edge of their own penalty area. Grant Hanley is the one who's hobbling now. Norwich City captain. Looks to be in a bit of trouble there. I'll have to wait and see whether or not he's going to be able to play on. He just, doesn't seem to be too much contact there as Havertz was closing him down, but it just felt a little something in his knee, it looks like.
Yeah, he was saying that it should have been a foul, but it was just Havertz chasing after him. He's in some pain, is Grant Hanley, and he may even have to come off. I think he'll try and run on for a little bit longer, given that he is the Norwich captain. Hopefully it's just a little bit of a knock for him, but injuries for Chelsea pre-game, and then a couple of knocks for Norwich in-game.
Absolutely, and Hanley for the time being looks okay. Good header that from Szczerbakowicz to get the ball back towards Edouard Mendy. The bench for Chelsea this afternoon: Aspilicueta, Barkley, Marcus Alonso, Loftus-Cheek, Christensen, Saul, Ziyech, Sarr and Kepa. There's Kepa, place on the bench might be even safer now after that performance from Mendy last week. But this is a chance for Norwich now. Down the right-hand side is Sargent. Even before Sargent had a chance to start sprinting after that ball, there was a free kick given there. And it looks like Reece James just ran into Chilwell. Not much sure there was too much that Reece James could have done about that.
No, I think ran into him is probably the best way to describe it, given that Chilwell was coming the opposite way and had to try and jump out the way and probably caused a little bit of that contact himself, Ben Chilwell. A little bit harsh on Norwich there, but it's one of those, they've just got to be so... Everything they do, Norwich, going forward, they can't afford little silly mistakes because they're hardly going to get a chance in front of goal. So
that is the problem, isn't it? The amount of possession Norwich are having early on is just showing that they really aren't going to have to cherish those few chances they get if and when they get them. For the time being, they are trying to keep a bit of possession going here in midfield as Aarons goes back towards Kazak, and then he plays the Kabak, I should say, and he plays the ball back towards Krul. The Norwich bench, by the way, is Rashika, Rupp, Williams, Dowell, Sorensen, Solis, Idea, Obamidele, and the goalkeeper Gunn as well. So those are the substitutes for Daniel Farke's side this afternoon as they go forward now down the right-hand side. Sargent, well, you could argue that what Chilwell did to him there wasn't too different to what Reece James did to Chilwell a moment earlier, but referee Andy Manley doesn't see it that way, and eventually the ball gets all the way back through towards Edouard Mendy. Mateo Kovacic now, square towards Antonio Rudiger. This is still inside the Chelsea half. Now Kovacic trying a long ball to try and pick out Havertz. I'm not sure he was even looking for a free kick there as he fell over. No chance for the referee giving that one, and Gibson goes back to Krul.
I think it was quite clever actually from Gibson, because I think Havertz was leaning into him and Gibson just thought, all right, I'll just back off.
Just
and
moved out of the way,
over.
yeah. Absolutely, yes. And Krul's clearance up towards the halfway line. Jorginho is then brought down by Norman. Free kick taken short, and Chelsea looking comfortable in possession. Not really hurried here because they don't need to be, as Norwich tried to press, but Kovacic goes square now to Rudiger. On the left-hand side now for Chilwell. Ball back with Mateo Kovacic. Premier League games at 3 o'clock, all available on our service today. Crystal Palace against Newcastle, Everton against Watford, Leeds against Wolves, and Southampton against Burnley. And then the evening kickoff is Brighton against Manchester City. More games tomorrow, of course, including the small matter of Manchester United and Liverpool at 4:30. But just as I say that, Thiago Silva's lost the ball, and Teemu Pukki tries to play in Josh Sargent, but that ball to him is just a little bit under hit. And it's what you said before, Matt, those small chances, that ball's got to be better. We'll get your thoughts in a second, because in the meantime, ball is played through it to Hudson-Odoi, and he tucks the ball past Tim Krul. It's all too easy for Chelsea so far. 18 minutes gone, and it's Chelsea 2, Norwich City 0.
Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount, the two men brought in today, in behind Kai Havertz up top, and they've both found the back of the net. And just as you were saying, Norwich had a chance themselves, sloppy, both in attack and in defence, and Chelsea cut them up with ease.
It's just too easy, isn't it? I mean, seconds before, I was going to get your thoughts on what we saw at the other end, where Chelsea gave the ball away inside their own half. Teemu Pukki tries to play in Joshua Sargent, but the ball was under hit. And literally from that, just a short ball from Thiago, Rudiger steps through his entire half with nobody stopping him. He plays it square. Kovacic then plays the ball down towards Hudson-Odoi. There's nobody anywhere close to him. He's nowhere close to being offside, and it's a very good finish.
It's got to be eyes on Kabak, hasn't it? I think he's the man that's down to mark Hudson-Odoi on that side with the three at the back, with Kabak the one on the right-hand side. It's a straight ball, isn't it, from Jorginho, was it, or Kovacic through the midfield?
Kovacic, yeah.
Yeah, with Kovacic, it didn't curl, it wasn't bent around a play, it was just played past the midfielder and then in behind Kabak. It's far too easy.
And yes, absolutely, we could see Thomas Tuchel certainly very happy with that second Chelsea goal. And problems mounting up here for Norwich City. Had 20 minutes on the clock yet, and they're 2 down. But they're trying to get forward here now, although Reece James' ball is straight back to Jorginho. He plays it square to Hudson-Odoi, back to Jorginho. Closed down by Reece James, back towards Kovacic now. And that's the problem that Norwich have got. It's been a problem for them since the start of this season. Looking at their next couple of fixtures, they play at home to Leeds United. That's going to be next Sunday. And then they're away to Brentford. Then we have the international break, and they come back with games at home against Southampton and Wolves. So potentially there are some points in there for Norwich, but they've got to try and find some form from somewhere. They're trying to go on the attack now down the left-hand side, but the ball to Giannis is just a bit too long.
Yeah, and for a third occasion, he's got in behind Reece James, but Reece James just has too much strength, too much pace, and chases back and covers things off. We see that a lot of Kyle Walker, don't we? He sometimes lets players get in behind him, but he knows he's so confident in his pace to get back. He covers things off, and Reece James has been in and out of the side this season in terms of playing right wing back or right centre half with Azpilicueta in front of him or switching around, but he's been extremely solid today. Had that great result, of course, had that great game against Arsenal early on. Was slightly unfortunate to pick up a red card against Liverpool, but it was one of those to the letter of the law. It had to be a red card, but it was slightly harsh, but even so, he's playing well today. Back to full form. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, back to full form. And as we see, just saw a stat flash up there as well. Chelsea leading goal scorers in all competitions in English football with 17. Well, certainly including Premier League teams with 17. Manchester City next with 15 and a couple of teams on 11. So certainly has been a bright start to the season here from Chelsea. Ozan Kabak had no way out of his own penalty. I had to go back towards Tim Krul. Over now towards Ben Gibson. Gibson's ball up towards... well, it's not even kept in play there by Giannis. Norwich barely even getting to the halfway line before they lose possession. Throw on now to Chelsea with Reece James. Couple of options here. He's got Kovacic and Jorginho, but from Thomas Tuchel's point of view, I think he's got to try and encourage his players to really do their best to entertain now, because it doesn't look as though there's going to be much by way of a goal threat from the visitors, and Chelsea should really just be looking to try and build on their lead as Rudiger steps forward again over to Chilwell down the left hand side, now to Hudson-Odoi, back to Rudiger. Pretty much playing as a midfielder now, goes back towards Thiago Silva, who stepped forward into the Norwich half as well. Chilwell now surrounded by Norwich players, still able to get the ball back to Rudiger. He then fires the ball towards Kai Havertz, which does reach Kai Havertz, and it's a bit of a clumsy challenge there from Grant Hanley, and a free kick to Chelsea. Yeah,
he was never going to get the ball there, Grant Hanley. It was poor from him. Havertz just held the ball off. I have to say, I don't mind too much the way that Norwich are pressing Chelsea. They're getting quite close, but Chelsea have just got so much more quality. They're able to just keep it off them, aren't they? Just keep them at arm's length, and Norwich should not really getting their foot in on the ball and stopping the attacks. And as you say, is Rudiger playing in midfield now because they're so comfortable on the ball? Yeah,
there's certainly no need for him to stay back as a sweeper or a centre-back. There's plenty of space for him to try and step forward, and it's a great opportunity this for Chelsea. We'll see, it's probably just a couple of yards further out than they would like to have a shot away, but that doesn't mean that James and Mount and Chilwell aren't discussing whether to have a shot from this sort of range. It is actually going to be a cross from Chilwell, left-footed ball, which drops to Rudiger. He tries to volley it towards goal. It's deflected away, but deflects back into the path of Rudiger. He then drops a shoulder and gets the ball into the 6-yard box, where it's finally played away by Lys Malou. But again, it comes back for Chelsea down the right-hand side. Mount is able to deflect that ball off Sargent, and it's a throw-on, and the pressure continues.
I think we've just seen Antonio Rudiger's other potential position, right wing. It's a great flick past Sargent, sprinted past him. Great change of pace, great strength as well to hold him off, and then flick the ball inside. It was good work from the German.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, he's probably had to deal with quick wingers dropping shoulders against him doing that all his career, so he's probably picked up a few tips on how to do it himself. But right now, Norwich could pick up with a few tips on how to manage this game, because they really are struggling to upset Chelsea. The league leaders are 2-0 up. We've had 23 minutes in this game, and it'll be Matt Guy to take us through to half-time.
Yeah, cheers, Paul. It's unfortunately gone the way that everybody expected it for Norwich. Chelsea playing some fine football already. Norwich just on the ball at the far side of the field, just trying to keep things in play, was Josh Sargent in a left full-back position. As eventually Norwich play the ball around at the back. We've seen a lot of Norwich possession, you have to say, in and around their own defensive areas, and they've kept onto it well up until they've got to midfield, as Hanley takes a tumble and then slides in. Foul goes against Kai Havertz there, but yeah, Norwich have had the ball, but Chelsea have just said, you can have it, and we'll take it off you and then hit you quickly.
Absolutely, you can have it, but as soon as you cross that halfway line, it's going to be very difficult for you to keep it, and that's certainly been the case since the start of this match. Not really seen Kenny McLean in any kind of a possession for Norwich outside his own half. He was trying to step forward now, but Pukki's had to drop pretty much at the halfway line just to get any possession.
Absolutely, as Gibson just inside the Chelsea half on the left-hand side, clips one down the left. It's comfortable for Thiago Silva to take down and clear, as over there is Max Aarons in left wing for the moment. Just blocks that clearance from Thiago Silva. So, 2 goals in this game for Chelsea. One from Mount, one from Hudson-Odoi, and an assist each for Jorginho and Kovacic in midfield. Of course, out of action today, the likes of Romelu Lukaku, Timo Werner, Christian Pulisic still injured as well, and N'Golo Kante not in the team sheet today either, as Hudson-Odoi just flicks the ball forward in towards Havertz. Can't quite take that one under his stride, but eventually manages to get there before Ozan Kabak. Now with Reece James inside to Jorginho, out wide to Havertz once again, looking for a play down the line, finds one in Mason Mount. Chilwell's in the box for the moment, waiting for a potential cross, maybe from Jorginho, as he scoops one over the Norwich defence in towards Reece James, looking to clear this one over the top of his own shoulder. It's knocked off the Norwich man and behind for a corner kick. Jorginho's just got so much confidence in and around the edge of the box.
Well, he has that anyway against most opposition, but against Norwich, where he's getting so much space, he's just able to do it time and time again. And again, another set piece here for Chelsea is going to be an in-swinger from Chilwell.
Chilwell from the far side. Rudiger and Thiago Silva are up from the back. Lots of arms and pointing around at the moment, but it's played short into Jorginho, into Mount. Now clips it in towards the front post, headed out by Gibson, falls at the feet of Kovacic into Callum Hudson-Odoi, tries to whip that one toward Chalobah, but it's easily cleared. It wasn't the greatest ball from Hudson-Odoi on this occasion, as Kovacic in the end scampers all the way back to give it to Edouard Mendy. Didn't quite know exactly what was around him, so just played the safe option. So Chelsea in possession once again. Jorginho turns quickly in a centre circle, just plays it back to Thiago Silva. Eyes are up, not looking at the ball, looking for options in front of him, some movement from the wingers and midfielders. Eventually finds Reece James in a central position. Dropped off to Jorginho, swept into the feet of Mount, holds off holds off the defender, finds Mount over on the far side of the field. Good quick play from Chelsea. Confident, everybody's moving in and around. It's hard for the Norwich defenders to track them as it goes into Hudson-Odoi's feet on the edge of the box. The left flank now is Chilwell, back to Kovacic once again, and this is going to be the theme of the afternoon, isn't it? For the next 60-odd minutes, you have to say. 27 just about minutes gone as Reece James flicks one around the corner in towards Mason Mount. That's good work though from Giannoulis on this occasion. Plays it to the right hand side, good ball in towards Max Aarons. He's chasing against Hudson-Odoi, does well initially there, Aarons, but he's backed into a corner. Kovacic comes across and in the end does well to win a throw. Yeah,
there's still an energy level about Norwich that you have to compliment them on. They are trying very hard. The problem for them is that they're just not able to sustain enough possession to really trouble Chelsea, and at the same time when Chelsea are in possession, Norwich are not able to close that defence up enough. But you certainly can't fault their effort. They are trying to maintain high energy levels, and when they have got a chance, they are trying to go forward.
Playing now, just got Jorginho on his shoulder, plays it around the corner in towards Norman. Looking to the left now, clips it in behind towards Giannoulis, in behind Reece James, looking for a first-time cross, maybe does just that into the penalty spot. Good covering from Ben Chilwell there. There was a man coming in over his shoulder as Ben Gibson doesn't watch Mason Mount over his shoulder, loses the ball. Jorginho quickly forward into Hudson-Odoi, trying to chase forward, gives it into Havertz. Hold up work potentially for Havertz here. He's got 4 Norwich men around him, cuts back on his favoured left foot, still holding onto the ball. Good work from the young German, and eventually a few more men in blue come up to support him. But another good ball down the left-hand side. That's the outlet today for Norwich. Giannoulis down the left-hand side, but just didn't quite find a Norwich head in the end, and it was good from Chilwell as well. That covering position to head away. And everything suddenly slowed down again as Chelsea comfortable on the ball. And after one of those Norwich bursts, are they going to concede for a 3rd time in a row after one of those attacks? But, for the moment, they're just holding a good defensive position. As Chelsea switch the play to Chalobah on the right-hand side. Now with Reece James, looks inside, finds Mount. Does he? No, good tackle comes in from Ben Gibson as Mount goes down injured. Norman sprints forward. Chalobah then in with a tackle. Advantage was played for Norman. And I think Mount is going to be okay to get to his feet.
Yeah, just needed a moment there, Mount, to pick himself up. It looks like he is going to be okay. It's a strong challenge. A challenge made in the Championship, you could say there, from Ben Gibson. And you can certainly see from a couple of the Chelsea fans pitch side, just at the edge of the seating there, looking a little bit, sort of grimaced a little bit when that challenge went in. But referee Andy Madley was happy that there was nothing wrong with that one, and it was just a free kick to Norwich for the subsequent foul.
It did get a toe on the ball, Ben Gibson, but did also catch Mason Mount. But anyway, here we are. Matthias Norman looks to whip one forward. It's knocked into the air. Sargent chasing over, nudges Rudiger out the way, plays it back inside. Aarons out wide to the right-hand side. Lise Milou looking for men in the box, whips it to the far post, and out comes Mendy. And he's so good at balls in the air, isn't he, from set pieces?
He is, but I mean, that wasn't a particularly difficult ball. He does very well to catch it, as you say. He's in the right place. He's probably looking just to try and get a bit of work in this first half. But yeah, it wasn't a good ball. It's too close to the goalkeeper. Now Chelsea on the break here with Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, one-on-one with Kabak, cuts inside, plays it across the box in towards the right-hand side. Shot at goal. Good shot from Mason Mount, but he went too straight towards Tim Krul.
He wasn't bound there to hit that first time. I think he felt as though he was going to generate enough power to really put his foot through it and hit it first time. But looking at this, I mean, Hudson-Odoi wasn't offside. There wasn't too much in it, but Kabak wasn't keeping in line to play him offside. And then when Hudson-Odoi breaks into the box, I mean, Mount has got enough time to take a touch, to go past Gibson. He could have also tried to get the ball to the edge of the 6-yard box for Havertz, so he wasn't forced into taking that effort, and it was a comfortable saver for Krul. Norwich trying to play out from the back, but already plenty of pressing from Chelsea.
Absolutely, Chelsea pressing forward, not allowing them anywhere near the halfway line at the moment. Kabak just goes back into Hanley. Around about 15 minutes or so to go in this first half. Chelsea 2, Norwich 0. Independent off-tube studio commentary of this Premier League early kickoff. That's Gibson over on the far side of the field. He's pressed by Mount, has to go back to Tim Krul, his goalkeeper. Looking to go long, knocks it down the left-hand side. Easy header out for Trevor Chalobah, just finds Jorginho. Now with Kovacic, and Chelsea are mounting an attack once again. Callum Hudson-Odoi out to the left-hand side, slightly overhit in front of Ben Chilwell, has to go wide, knocks it in first time, floats it towards the far post. Giannoulis can take that one down. Eventually Mount comes across, puts a shoulder in. Giannoulis just plays it down the line, and that's just going to be a Chelsea throw over on the far side.
I think it's good. Footballers need to adjust quickly. I think last season that's given us a free kick all day long, but ever since the Euros, referees have been told to just allow that bit more physicality, not to blow too soon. And there was evidence of it there, just a little bit of a push on the shoulder, and the journalist perhaps gave up on it a little bit too easily, but Norwich just cannot get the ball away from their own penalty area. Good challenge there from Gibson, puts the ball out for a throw.
On the far side up against Mount once again, but yeah, Giannoulis just knocked it down the line and sort of got the shoulder from Mount and expected a foul instantly, didn't he? I think he probably should have just touched it a little bit less and tried to get on the end of the ball himself, and then if Mount had pulled him back, he would have got the foul, but the throw comes in from the right-hand side from Reece James into Thiago Silva. Now with Rudiger, steps to his left-hand side. Maybe a strike from him. He strikes it towards goal, blocked by Kabak into the air. And Krul sees that one come down into his hands. He's a fan favourite, isn't he, around Stamford Bridge? They love how he drives forward with the ball and just goes forward.
Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly why Rudiger is so popular, is the fact that he's a solid central defender who pretty much has midfield capabilities. And we saw that there again with the way he was trying to get that ball through towards the edge of the area. And Norwich, once again, well, to their credit, they're not kicking it long. There's only been a few times where Krul's kicked it long. They're trying to keep some possession in midfield now.
So Pookie just puts Giannoulis in a little bit of trouble there over on the far side. Gets a knock, but Norwich still on the ball. Switched cut-back ball to the left-hand side in towards Aarons, who's once again on the left wing there. But Reece James steps away with it now for Chelsea. In a spot of pressure, and Jorginho with a lovely flick between Norman and Sargent, and Chelsea come forward down the left. It's Chilwell, not the greatest control initially from him, but drives inside. As a touch comes in from McLean, that one will be a foul. Chilwell just let the ball run away from him, but Jorginho, pressed by 2 Norwich men, just flicks it around the corner, and they can't get anywhere near him.
No, they can't, and it's a real it's a real problem here for Norwich how to try and approach this game. I suppose from their point of view, if they can keep it at 2-0 and not let the scoreline increase before half-time, then perhaps they can regroup at half-time and come out with a plan. But it's stating the obvious that the next goal in this game has to be for Norwich if they're going to have any chance. But as we mentioned earlier, the stats aren't in their favour. There have only been 2 games out of 18 in the Premier League where Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea, since he took over, have where they've scored first and not won the game. So it's a tall order here for Norwich. But as long as they can keep it down to 2-0 before the break, they perhaps give themselves a chance. They could pull a goal back before the break, even the better.
Do with pulling one back, but they've only really had the ball once on the edge of the Chelsea box, and they've given it away again. It's running down the right-hand side is Mason Mount. He's well in front of Norman, who can't catch up to him. Flicks it to the right-hand side. That one's just into the heels of Havertz, and in the end, Hanley is able to take the ball away, and they give it away once again. This time, Giannoulis over on the far side. It's Mount back inside to Reece James, Kovacic, and Jorginho just playing Pookie like a toy, really, ragging him in each direction, switching the play in and around him. As eventually the ball comes to the left-hand side with Hudson-Odoi, just to cut inside for a moment, but ends up going backwards, and it's more Chelsea pressure. But yeah, the only time they've had the ball on the edge of the Chelsea box was when Pookie played that ball in front of Sargent, played it too hard, and they instantly conceded.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a stat just a moment or two ago that Chelsea have now done around 60 passes in the final third. Norwich have still not got to 10, so it just gives you an indication of how little possession Norwich are getting inside the Chelsea, or certainly anywhere near the Chelsea penalty area.
Rudiger just behind halfway, gives it inside to Jorginho. He's got the freedom of Stamford Bridge to run forward with the ball, flicks it in towards Chilwell, edge of the box, and Carrack is just about there to get a head on that one and stop it going through in towards the Chelsea man. So Jorginho was just gifted so much time. He just dropped in between the two strikers, Norwich strikers, didn't he? And none of the midfielders were anywhere near him, and he could have run them forward 10 yards.
Exactly. I mean, this is exactly the issue now that we're seeing with how Norwich are trying to play out from the back, but with Chelsea, as soon as they get the ball, Chilwell was the furthest forward there. There's so much space for them, and it's hard to understand because Norwich aren't able to get out of their own half. So when they lose the ball, there should be plenty of numbers back in their own half, but Chelsea are still finding huge gaps.
So inside now with Norman, looks to the left, floats it out towards Ben Gibson, comes back inside to McLean. Comes to Norman once again, steps forward. Havertz, good work rate to chase back there. Incidentally, the other game at this time on the service, also the early kickoff in the Championship, and Middlesbrough have taken the lead away at Cardiff. Kabak just nicks the ball for a moment off Callum Hudson-Odoi, drives forward himself, looks to strike at goal, slices that one. He's asking for a corner. The young Turkish international, as Hudson-Odoi complains, saying he should have won a free kick after Kabak nicked it off him. And,
no, he's not. If Janalis isn't getting the one from Mount a few moments earlier, there's no way that Hudson-Odoi can accept. Even last year, when referees were being stricter on stuff like that, I don't think there was enough contact to suggest. It was Sporar, by the way, the Slovakian from the penalty spot, that gave Borough the lead at Cardiff, a sort of a Neil Warnock derby there, almost, you could say, with his previous Cardiff connections and his current role at Middlesbrough. Norwich have now registered a shot on goal, though, after that effort from Kabak, but it's still 6-1 in total and 4-0 in terms of shots on target to Chelsea.
Yeah, it was well off target, that shot from Kabak. He claimed for the corner, didn't get one.
That was hopeful as well, didn't it? Yeah. He just looked like he pinged it off the toe end, and it didn't look like it got a deflection at all.
It was a centre-half taking a shot and hoping that the referee would spare his blushes, that one. As Kabak comes to the right-hand side with Reece James. Back to Kabak once again, flicks it down the right-hand side in towards Aarons, who's one of the furthest forward men for Norwich, but he chests the ball down. It's not given a foul from Ben Chilwell, and Chelsea come forward once again. This time Havertz into Hudson-Odoi, looking to maybe go past Hanley, who just tracked him well for a moment there. Chilwell up to his feet after that challenge with Aarons. Back to Hudson-Odoi on the left, up against Reece James. Cuts inside on his right foot, finds Kovacic. Maybe a deep late run there from Reece James. He was looking at that one, didn't provide it at the moment. Chelsea still on the ball, around about 10 yards out from the edge of the Norwich box. Chalobah on the right-hand side, into Reece James. Jorginho free inside, asks for the ball, gets it. Sargent on his back, he flicks it forward towards Havertz, but that one's not got enough on it. But Chelsea win it back again. Every single time Norwich clear, it's Chelsea who keep coming forward with another wave of attack, and they just slow things for the moment. Switch it to the left in towards Rudiger. Does he fancy a charge forward this time? Hudson-Odoi tries to find Kovacic inside, and maybe a chance now for Norwich on the counter-attack. It's won by Sargent, and Pookie running down the right-hand side. He's got Chilwell on his back. Rudiger steps across and easily wins that one. And Pookie looked like he was being thrown everywhere there, but I think he caused it himself.
He did, but I mean, he broke out and he just ran into Rudiger, took the ball off him, and straight away Chelsea on the attack.
Mount down the right side into Havertz, strikes forward with his weaker right foot and doesn't get the connection on that one.
Is he hitting that towards goal, or is he trying to play that square to Mount there? In any case, as you say, he doesn't get the right connection with his right foot anyway, but it's a shame because either he hits it harder or he plays it square, and that would have been a great chance for 3-0.
Absolutely. Single time Norwich come forward, though, they seem to hit a brick wall, and this time it was Rudiger. But it just shows once again, every single time Norwich do get the ball and they find a little bit of an opening in the Chelsea defence, they go for it, they throw men forward, but that means they're so vulnerable at the back. And
it is a problem, because even when they're not throwing men forward, they're still leaving big gaps at the back. So when they have actually committed a couple of extra men towards the Chelsea penalty, if they lose that ball quickly, then they are very exposed.
Rudiger in his own half with the ball at his feet. Square into Thiago Silva. First time into Jorginho. Still nobody pressing him. Time on the ball. He receives it back from Thiago Silva after giving it to the Brazilian. Clipped over the top by Jorginho. But this time Mount and Havertz in a little bit of a kerfuffle with each other. Didn't know who was running where. And the ball just bounces through to Tim Krul, and Norwich will start play at the back once again. Gibson goes short into Giannoulis, looking to flick the ball past Reece James, who just holds him off and wins the throw in. Receives it back from Jorginho after that throw. And back to Thiago Silva on the halfway line. Chilwell and Reece James are pretty much right wingers in the formation at the moment, as Kovacic drives forward with the ball into Havertz, back to Kovacic, looking to the left hand side, chops it eventually into Hudson-Odoi, but well read by Lys Malou. Just driving out to the right hand side, he slows things down, gets caught by Hudson-Odoi, and it's a foul in the end. Kovacic was looking for Hudson-Odoi, but the fact that Norwich got men around him, he had to wait for a second and then play the pass, by which time Hudson-Odoi had gone.
Exactly, yeah, that was the issue. But once again, it was a quick break out there from Chelsea, and as I said, that the pass was so quick that even Hudson-Odoi couldn't react to it. But it has been a solid performance here from Chelsea in this first half, as Tim Krul miscues his clearance.
Played on target, you would say, from the back pass from Kabak, and Krul just hits it first time with his left boot as Jorginho switches the play in towards Mount. Down the line he goes into Reece James, in behind, can he cut the ball back? He chips it over the goalkeeper. What a finish from Reece James. That is disgusting.
Superb, absolutely superb. And of course my colleague means disgusting in the good way, of course, the ridiculous, the sick, whichever way you want to describe that. But the Chelsea fans absolutely loving that. And that is superb, and the Norwich fans looking a little bit crestfallen now, as does Daniel Farke. His side just haven't been able to keep Chelsea at bay. And this all starts with this miscued clearance from Tim Krul. It goes straight through to Kovacic. He plays it square to Jorginho. Then not enough strength there from Giannoulis, it has to be said. He looked favoured to get to that before Reece James, but Reece James is sprinting whereas Giannoulis is jogging. And then James very quickly is able to get the ball over Tim Krul. And as soon as Tim Krul gets up from attempting to save, he's giving Giannoulis an earful, because really the Norwich left-back should have got there before James.
Yeah, I was thinking that James may have cut the ball back there, but it was just bouncing slightly, wasn't it? Which slightly helped him be able to get his foot underneath the ball and cause it to go straight up over Tim Krul.
Look at that reaction as well. It's a huge goal that for Reece James.
Well, we've been saying that battle between Reece James and Giannoulis all game long. Giannoulis has got in behind him a couple of times, but each time he has, Reece James has got back to cover. That time Reece James got in front, but Giannoulis couldn't cover.
No, and that's right. And we've just seen Delia Smith and her husband as well watching on from the director's box this afternoon. Can't be a very pleasant viewing to see what Norwich have done or not done in this first half. I wonder with that finish from Reece James, if it was 0-0 and if they were playing perhaps a bigger side, would he still go for that save? Because it's quite a high-risk finish there. He may have ended up cutting it back on that occasion. Yeah,
potentially, absolutely. But they're so flowing in confidence, aren't they, so far, Chelsea?
Absolutely. I mean, if he doesn't score from that chance, Chelsea would have backed themselves to get another chance or two before the end of this first half. First half, the Norwich probably can't wait for it to be over.
Yeah, it was an instinctive one from Reece James. And just looking back at Norwich's results in the league this season, of course, they shipped 3 against Liverpool, they shipped 5 against Manchester City. And those were back-to-back games as well at the start of the season, not how Norwich wanted to start. They only managed to score against Watford and Leicester, and the only time they haven't conceded more than 1. And there's a strike just comes in from Mount, actually, just over the bar. The 2 last results, the 0-0s and the Arsenal 1-0.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have had an international break in this month, but today, in fact, is the first time that Norwich have conceded in October, because they had 2 0-0 draws in their previous 2 games. They were at home to Leeds United. Sorry, they were away to Burnley, then at home to Brighton. And considering how Brighton have started this season, that point at home to them was actually quite a good one for Norwich. But it's looking bleak in this first half. Still got about a minute plus injury time to go.
Absolutely. Norwich look like they're continuing this poor run. They're winless in 18 Premier League games in a row, drawn 2, and those 2 are the last 2. The previous before that were 16 losses. Of course, partly this season, partly when they last got relegated a couple of seasons ago. Sargent flicks one to the left-hand side, and it's a free kick, I think, has gone against Janulis. I think he tried to shoulder it.
Yeah, I think he's tried to move his shoulder to it, but it has sort of caught him on the arm there, on the biceps. I don't think you can have any arguments with that. And Chelsea just looking to wind down the last seconds of this first half.
Yeah, Daniel Farker, just in our camera pictures at the moment, he looks resigned to the result, really, doesn't he, already? He's got his hand over his mouth, just deliberating what's happened in this first half. They've been completely cut open on 3 or 4 occasions, and maybe another one now as Chilwell gets past Reece James, who will pick up the first yellow card of the match, and rightly so, because he did just stop Chilwell.
Yeah, I mean, Reece James is still trying to point to the other side of the pitch as if to say there was something similar. I don't remember any occasion where a Chelsea player deliberately trips a Norwich player like that. It's just one of those that Reece James was just a little bit late arriving, and he's the first player in this game to get booked.
Thiago Silva on halfway with 1 minute of added time at the end of this first half. We've played 15 seconds of those already. I'm sure that Norwich will want to get in at half-time as quick as possible. Probably would bet that they probably wish it would be the full-time whistle, not the half-time whistle, the way things have gone. As Mendy receives the ball at feet in his own box. A few of the Chelsea fans going for their half-time break as Mendy lobs one forward as Havertz is adjudged to a foul. Mount backing into the Norwich defender. Mount was looking for a foul himself. It's one of those, the striker sometimes wraps an arm around, but the defender also wraps one as well.
Yeah, and it's almost a coin toss as to who the referee believes more in that situation. Yeah. Who's the one that instigated? Who's the one that's holding on more once they've come together? But in the end, it is just a free kick to Norwich, and by the time they take it, we'll have had the minute of injury time.
Ben Gibson just inside his own half will most likely go short. Does so into Hanley. Back to Ben Gibson, and that's it, says Andy Madley, for the first half. A fabulous first half for Chelsea, with a few injuries not in their starting lineup. The men who have come in have added to their brilliant season so far. At half-time, after 45 at Stamford Bridge, it's Chelsea 3, Norwich 0.